Hey, I was wondering, have you seen my pen? Has anyone seen my pen?
Don't we usually keep pens in here somewhere? No, there's just a marker. Isn't this the drawer? A pencil? No, I need a pen.
Mr. Unicorn, keeper of all things magical, do you know where my pen is? I really need it. I have a lesson coming up. I need to teach how to do pen and ink drawing. Come on, why are you not speaking? Hey, have you seen my pen? What? You think it's where? There's my pen. Well, I sure hope you haven't lost your pen, because today we have another pen and ink practice that we're about to head into. This is practice number 2, and we're going to be looking at different strokes for our lesson today, different strokes that you could be making with your cross hatching and your hatching, and how to do those. The reason we're looking at these is developing your pen control and helping you ultimately to be very good at applying shading and texture to those different areas of a pen drawing. So grab your pen and grab a piece of paper and a ruler, and let's get going.
Just in case you're wondering, today's exercise is inspired by Pen and Ink Drawing Workbook by Alfonso Dunn. So without further ado, let's get started. You're going to need a sketchbook page or just a piece of paper and a pen that you're going to use to practice with, and a ruler. We will be making 3 boxes across that are 1 inch wide, and then 7 boxes going down the paper that will be 3/4 of an inch going down. So right now I'm doing the 3/4 of an inch. So 3/4 of an inch long and 1 inch wide. You can make these boxes any size you want to fit on your paper. That was just what I felt like was going to fit well onto my paper. And I just leave 1/4 of an inch between each box. And then after I get them set up, I will highlight the boxes just to help my eyes know, this is the box that I'm practicing in right now, because sometimes when you're doing things like this, you can get a little confused with where the white space is versus your practice box. And so I find if I highlight the boxes, it just helps me know exactly which box I need to be in right now. So this is what it will look like when you are finished. You want to, at the top, label that it's another pen and ink drawing practice. It's practice number 2, and then put today's date on it. Down the left-hand side, label next to the boxes hatching, cross hatching, uneven hatching, curved hatching, scribbling, stippling, and flowing lines. Again, those are hatching, cross hatching, uneven hatching, curved hatching, scribbling, stippling, and flowing lines. And we're ready to get started. So for our first one, hatching, we're just going to make little lines going down, just little tiny lines, and you can fit either 3 or 4 rows of those little tiny lines in the hatching box. Hatching practice 2. For this box of hatching lines, we are going to kind of draw straight down from one side to the other, but you start on the short corner and kind of work your way to long lines. Hatching practice 3. This last hatching box, we're just going to make little uneven lines in tiny little rows. Cross hatching practice 1. Alright, now we're going to start the cross hatching section. So we're first just going to make a bunch of vertical lines the whole way across that box. And then we're going to start with some diagonal lines going across from one corner and working our way down to the bottom corner. Cross hatching practice 2. Now for this box, just make little rows of vertical lines, about 3 or 4 little rows of vertical hatching lines. And then for the cross hatching, we're going to go the whole way across horizontally on each of those little rows. And you can see how that creates a different look than our first cross hatching. Cross hatching practice 3. This last box of cross hatching, we're going to do a little bit of the opposite of what we just did. We're going to do diagonal lines that go the whole way across, and then we're going to do the little lines going diagonal. That's just like 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 little rows of little lines. And you can see how that's kind of a combination between the first cross hatching and the second cross hatching, but yet it creates a completely different look. Now we're moving on to our uneven hatching practice. So practice 1 is little downward lines, not in even rows, just putting them in sporadically, little downward lines. Uneven hatching practice 2. I thought of this one more like grass. So it would be starting at the base of the line and we're going up. So it's reverse of what we just did. Instead of going downward, starting at the base of the line and going up, like you would for making grass. Uneven hatching practice number 3. These lines are kind of going in all sorts of different directions. They kind of remind me of like a cracked surface, or not really sure what it reminds me of. So just making the lines in all sorts of different directions. Curved hatching practice 1. For this one, you're going to start at the top of the line and go down just a little line with a hook on it opposite of a J. You want to fit about 4 rows of these hooked little lines in that little tiny box. Curved hatching practice 2. So these are opposite of what we just did, little lines going down with a J type of appearance, but not the whole way up to J. And you want to do like 4 rows of these in that little box. Curved hatching practice 3. We're going to do the same type of little lines, 4 rows again, but they're going to curve almost the whole way back up to where they had started. Scribbling practice 1. So these are just big fluffy scribbles, almost like about 4 rows that would fit into that box going horizontally. Scribbling practice 2. These are more like vertical scribbles. If there can be vertical scribbles, like the others were horizontal, these would be more like vertical scribbles. Scribbling practice 3. These are going horizontally almost the whole way across the box, faster than the first one's, not near as loopy, going the whole way down. Stippling practice 1. These are just little dots. You can make the dots intentionally, or you can just go dot, 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 or you can make them very intentional by making some bigger. Stippling practice 2. These are giving a direction to our stippling dots, so trying to take them out in kind of a curved line pattern. Stippling practice 3. Now this one looks a little bit more like small gravel. It's not intentional polka dots or just dot dot dot, but some are big, some are small, some are dashed, that sort of thing. Flowing lines practice 1. So these flowing lines are going to start at the bottom and flow up towards the top. Flowing lines practice 2. Alright, so these flowing lines are going to start at a point at the bottom and flow outward to the left, upward, and then outward to the right. And this last practice, flowing lines practice 3, will have lines flowing from the top to the bottom with a little curve in them. And that concludes this basic stroke practice. Remember, the main goal of these types of strokes is to help you develop your pen control and help you to be able to learn how to do these different varieties and forms of lines. So you want to practice this type of thing until you feel like you are making these lines like a second nature to you. And the more you practice, the better you will become. And then you'll use these lines when you are shading and creating textures within your drawings later.